Ready whenever you are.
Right.
All right. Welcome to the second edition of the Mark and the Fan Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Magnum.
That's right. Hello, everybody. It's the Cisco Kid, Chris Cloyd, and Marcus. We're going to have some fun today, everybody.
We got two different topics today. I don't know which one we really want to start.
It's Mark and the Fan Podcast.
If he returns, Randy Orton.
Hosted by the militant Mark Magnum and the Cisco Kid.
Triple H is still the main man creative.
For now. We always do when we do this stuff, man. We got two different topics today. I don't know which one we really want to start with first. We got two, like I said, and one of them is the Royal Rumble and the matches that they're having at the Rumble, and the other one is Vince McMahon coming back and the potential sale of WWE. Now, I don't know about you. I don't know which one you want to start off with. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, we could do the Rumble.
All right, we'll go with the Rumble. We want to do the Women's Rumble matches. What we want to do first?
The women sounds good.
Women's Rumble. All right. Who do you got in the Women's Rumble? Because on my own podcast, I've talked about this, and for me, they really haven't built any real women up besides like a Rhea Ripley. Right. I mean, they've got Bianca and Becky and Charlotte, and but Bianca's a champion as of right now, as of recording. Charlotte's the champion on SmackDown now as of recording. So those two are obviously not going to be in the Rumble match, I would think. I mean, Charlotte's done one before when she was champion, but I don't think they're obviously going to be in the Rumble. So you've got Rhea Ripley. Becky, we know, is in the Rumble. I don't see her winning it. And so from the women's side of it, it's like, especially when I look at SmackDown.
Oh, yeah.
They really have nobody besides Raquel Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And she's still not there yet. Like, she's still not a finished product.
Yeah.
To be that person to win the Rumble. They've teased Rhea, I think, the last 2 years where she's been the final two. And I think the last 2 years it was her and Bianca, the final two. Right. So they've already kind of teased that Rhea's there. Right. She just hasn't broken through yet. So for me, like, I'm not WWE, obviously, and I'm not booking the stuff, but if it was me, you've put her out of all the women. You mean Mia Yim? They have nothing. She's not getting any reaction. Candice LeRae not getting any reaction. Tegan Nox kind of gets a reaction. Shotzi, and I mean just some of the people that he's recently brought back. Damage Control, as a whole, as a group, they're kind of flat right now. Yeah. So it's like the entire. I don't want to say the entire, but it kind of is. The entire women's division's kind of stale right now. And if I'm looking at or weighing out, out of each brand, out of SmackDown and Raw, which one from either show is the top dog or the top person or the number one person that should get that shot at WrestleMania, I think it's almost a no-brainer that Rhea Ripley's going to win this one. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I've got somebody you mentioned earlier that I think they should go ahead and give the push to, and that's Raquel.
Raquel, okay.
Yeah, I'm digging her stuff. I wish the fans liked her a little better. It's just with the whole size deal. Yeah, and
she's believable. Yeah,
yeah, but if it isn't her, I'd have to say Rhea.
It's got to be. It's got to be mommy.
Yeah,
it's got to be mommy.
Yeah, yeah. They both. Rhea, she would definitely deserve it more. I don't know how that's gonna turn out with their faction right now. Right. I don't know if it'll get split anytime soon.
You're talking about Judgment Day.
Yeah. But yeah, that's. I think it's Raquel.
There's an argument to be made for Raquel, but I'm just thinking back to a few months back when they had Rhea and Bianca kind of cross paths, and that was a couple months back, and that was kind of a teaser, kind of like they did with Cena, and Austin Theory. Right. Towards they may or may not do it, but they've kind of put that out there, and I mean, I would love to see Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley at a WrestleMania, because the last 2 WrestleManias for Bianca, those have been standout moments for her. Yeah. Both matches, the one she had with Sasha Banks or, Mercedes Moné, whatever she's called now, and the match she had with Becky, even the one she had at SummerSlam. Great matches, and Rhea is one of those ones, she bumps different. Mm-hmm. Like, she bumps kind of like a guy. And as a guy that's wrestled, I've wrestled plenty of females, and most of them, and this is not a slight on any of them, but a lot of them bump the same.
Okay.
And Rhea takes the harder bumps, the more like intense bumps, to make her opponent look good. I'm not saying that the women that don't do that are making their opponents look bad.
Right.
But at the same time, she's one of these ones that goes out of her way with her bumps and her selling to make the opponent she's working with look good. So I just, in my mind, the way that Bianca works and the way that Rhea works, just that match on paper is like mouth-watering to me.
Yeah.
Now, Raquel, granted, I think that in time she'll get there. I think it's too early. I think that she's been hampered by the whole smiling baby face, cookie cutter baby face that they always do, where I'm just happy to be here. Mm-hmm. We need to stop that. Have it to where she has some intensity. Or at the very least, I'd love to see her go heel, honestly, because that would change the way that they're presenting her. Because right now, she's just that bland, hi, I'm Raquel Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And it's just so... to me, like in that regard, because it's like you could present her as a baby face, but not present her like that.
Right.
And that's my big thing with her right now is like the presentation that they've given her. And I think that's why when she comes out, the fans do react. It's not like a Mia Yim
no silence.
or a Candice LeRae where they're just kind of like, yay. No, they react for her. Uh-huh. But I think it'd be a stronger reaction if like she was more relatable and not just that smiling for no good, like Vince McMahon, go out there and smile, or like, I get that because you want baby faces to look, personable to where you can approach them, but they don't have to be like uber nice like that. It's just, it kills me. But I guess we've basically got our thoughts in on who we think's going to win the women's. Yeah. What about the men's? Who you got? Well, I'll let you start with this one.
Well, I think that could go all different ways. Very many different ways. You got some possible awesome folks that could be in it.
Yeah.
Not a typical deal with the nostalgia. This is ones that's, okay, they're a little bit later in their careers, but if they enter, they very well could win it.
Right.
But... golly, it's just, I don't know. Between maybe Cody, if he's ready to go.
He's already announced he's going to be in the Rumble.
He's got to be one of them, one of the top ones. The match with Bray.
LA Knight?
LA Knight.
Yeah.
Is he in the Rumble?
They have not announced. I'm assuming since he's in a match that he's not going to. I don't know.
Yeah.
They haven't said either way, so I don't know. But I don't know. But who do you think is going to win?
I think I gotta go with, if he returns, Randy Orton.
Randy Orton. See, there's been a lot of reports with Orton right now that he's still not ready to go. Yeah. I mean, that could just be subterfuge, and they're kind of trying to throw us off the scent. Not a bad choice.
What I'd like to see happen, and this is a long shot, don't know if he's for sure done at AEW, but I would love to have that number 30 one be CM Punk. I'm hoping they're pulling the wool over our eyes, but
I mean, I don't see CM Punk coming in.
Yeah.
I think it'd be good in a way, but I think the whole AEW thing and the way he left there is kind of, I don't want to say put a stink on him.
Yeah.
But it's going to make it hard. I mean, and Triple H and CM Punk already have their history where they're not exactly on the same page. So I don't know about that. It would be cool.
Right.
Because I know at the end of the day, CM Punk just wants his main event WrestleMania match. And I think that was part of the reason why he left. It was just like, I'm the champion. I'm not even main eventing the show. So, I mean, I get that, your argument for CM Punk. I don't think that'll happen. But then again, I don't see him going back to AEW either.
Right.
So he might just be done. Yeah. Now, from my side of this, how I'm looking at it, this is totally different than the Women's Rumble. Because there are some guys they've positioned like a Lashley, like a Seth, that could win this.
Yeah.
I mean, the obvious choice is probably a Cody. But then they also have the 30th anniversary of Raw on Monday. So we don't know if we're going to have a Rock appearance in that acknowledgement of Roman ceremony. We don't know how that's going to go. Is he actually going to be there? Is it going to be something via satellite? Is he not going to do anything? Because there's reports out there that he's not going to be a part of WrestleMania. Again, that could be also just to throw us off the scent. Right. And make us not think that, so when it happens, it's a bigger surprise, because in this day and age of the internet, there really is no secrets anymore.
Exactly.
So it's hard to keep things like that under wrap. So, but if I was picking it, like if it was me booking it, I would probably say Lashley. If it was me, because I want to see Lashley versus Roman again.
Yeah.
And just two big guys, big beefy match. That's what I want to see. But what do I think they're going to do as a company? If they can't get The Rock, I mean, it's got to be Cody. I mean, you've built him up. You've did 3 weeks worth of video packages, hyping him up. I mean, that could also be to throw us off the scent.
Right.
And give us somebody else. But, I mean, that was the whole reason he came back, was to win the title. And I just don't see anybody. I mean, there's other guys, I guess, like if it's a surprise, I don't want to see Edge win it again.
Right.
Or I don't want to see Cena win it again or anything like that. So it's like, it's not as limited as the women's.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's still a small crop of guys that can actually realistically win this.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm looking at it. So if I was booking it, Bobby. But if I'm looking at it from WWE's perspective and how they've presented Cody and the reason why, I mean, it'd be different if he didn't say that's why he came back. But he's first day in after WrestleMania. He gave the long thing about his dad, and that's why he's back. So for me, I mean, who else? I mean, it's got to be Cody.
Yeah.
It has to be.
What do you think about Drew winning again, or the newcomer, Darian Cross?
Karrion Kross, he's not there yet. Like, I like Karrion Kross, but he's not there yet. Kind of like how I feel about Raquel. Like, maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, yeah. But let's let him progress as a character, I think.
Yeah. Because
the fans are still kind of about him. I mean, they do a heel reaction for him, but he does heelish stuff, so it makes sense. But at the same time, they haven't evolved him yet, or presented him well enough to put him in that spot. I just don't think he's that guy. And I mean, like I covered this on my podcast, like there's not really too much they can do besides Cody.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be.
Right.
It has to be. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but the way you've told this story and how he left at Hell in a Cell with his torn pec and the bruising and I mean, I didn't really care about Cody Rhodes either way when he came back. I was, whatever, it's good, it's cool he came back. Yeah. It was kind of a shot to AEW, I guess, that you got one of their executive vice presidents.
Yeah.
I get all that. But I think this worked for a lot of people. That Hell in the Cell match endeared him to a lot of people, because when he first took off his robe or his jacket or whatever, and people just saw that bruise, and he wrestled for the first few minutes.
Yeah.
And people realized, okay, this ain't a makeup job, or this ain't where they've made him look like he's hurt. This is actually, he's really hurt. And he's working this match hurt. To where for me, it was an epic performance for him, because I've worked matches injured. Not to that degree, but it's hard enough to get through a match when you're 100.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine when you're 50, 40, 30, 20, whatever percent, still performing basically what you planned for that match, pull it off. And
it's impressive.
I was thoroughly impressed with his performance that night. And that kind of was like, okay, he's the guy now.
Yeah.
Like he has to be. You beat Seth 3 times in a row, a former Universal and WWE champion.
Right.
I mean, it's not like you can put the Intercontinental or the U.S. title on him. Man.
Yeah. And that match you mentioned, it took fans like myself that was on the border with him, like, I don't know, and then that just shot him up another stratosphere.
Yeah, same thing I was saying. Whereas, I'm happy he was back.
Thing.
Yeah, I'm happy he was back, but it's just like, okay, let's see what Cody does.
Yeah.
And the matches he had, with Seth were all classics.
They were great.
Great matches. The Mania match was great. The match they had at, I think it was WrestleMania Backlash, was great. Mm-hmm. And then the match they had at Extreme, or at Hell in the Cell, was also epic. Like that was one of those matches that was kind of career defining for him, because he could have easily just said, no, I can't do this match, but he was very adamant that, no, I'm going to do this. And for me, especially as a guy that used to do this, that gained my respect, because he could have just said, no, can't do it. Like put somebody else in this match, but that would screw things up.
Yeah.
Storyline wise. So he played ball, went in there injured, knowing he was going to have to take time off. So, yeah, big thumbs up from me to Cody, to where I think, in a way, I don't want to say they owe this to him, but to go out there at the level that he was injured,
right,
and perform at the level that he did. It wasn't like he went out there and they botched everything.
Yeah.
Everything they did was on point, looked good. Like him being injured did not hamper the match at all.
Right.
So for me, like I said, as a guy that's done this, this has got to be his reward for that night alone. Mm-hmm. Now, whether he wins, that's a different story. 29. I think he has to win.
29 other superstars.
Oh, no, I'm talking about I'm talking about if he wins the Rumble, and then goes on to Mania, he almost has to win.
Yeah,
he almost has to. I mean, granted, they've told a long story with Roman, but I mean, he almost has to.
Right.
But off of that topic, they have a few matches as of us recording this right now that they have announced. We've got Roman versus KO, and they also announced a pitch black match. I guess we'll go into the pitch black match first. This match to me is kind of an anomaly, because they announced last night on SmackDown that it was no holds barred, no disqualification, pinfall, submission only. So we know kind of what the match is, but we still don't know. I've heard reports that there's supposed to be neon lights and crap like that, and I kind of have my concerns, because, I mean, this is Bray's first match back, and if I'm him, I don't want it to be a stinker.
Yeah.
Because we've waited for a little bit over by the time the match actually happens, over 4 months.
Yeah.
And it's been promos and backstage segments and all the other shenanigans they've been doing without a match. And I'm fine with that as long as the match is good that you finally give us. But if it ends up stinking out the joint, they've wasted 4 months on something. I don't think it will, but when I hear neon lights and it gives me, cause for pause. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I mean, now this match I think could go either way, because I'm not exactly sure what story they're telling. Because not this week that just happened, but the week previous, Bray Wyatt talked about how, he didn't want to be that guy that he was, and he also alluded that he's Uncle Howdy, and I think that was like metaphorically, not literally, to where everything with him's a riddle or a puzzle. And part of me likes that, but sometimes I just want to be told, this is what we're doing, this is the kind of match we're having, and it not be kind of in the air still, where we're not exactly sure exactly what we're going to see. Now, as the match goes, LA Knight could easily win this, and it builds to another match at Elimination Chamber. But with this being Bray's first match, you really don't want him to lose either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if I'm predicting this, if I'm booking it, I'd have LA Knight win. Just for the sheer fact that if you're reestablishing him from the Maximum Male Model debacle that Vince threw him into and changed his whole character, and then thankfully Triple H brought him back to at least being LA Knight, to where it's like you don't want to kill off him and have him get beat in his first real, because this is his first real pay-per-view or premium live event match. So you don't want to, poo-poo on him. But then it's also Bray's first match back since he's returned. So it's kind of a catch-22. It's one of those matches where you almost shouldn't have booked it because whoever loses is not going to exactly come out looking the greatest. But like I said, if I was booking it, LA Knight. But if I'm WWE and the way you've presented Bray, I think he almost has to win too. What do you think?
Yeah, that's good. Some good points there, Marcus. I think we are going. I think we're seeing the future of WWE and LA Knight. Right. I see hints of Austin in him, hints of The Rock in him, and even hints of the Nature Boy Ric Flair.
Yeah, he's got the swagger. Yeah.
I'm thinking it's like he's borrowing all three elements and then his own little deal.
Yeah,
and I would put him over. Not a smash match.
Your squash match.
This is a squash match. I'm sorry.
You got it.
But yeah, just you got to have LA Knights win, and then to help Bray with his loss, have him continue a possible long-term feud or short-term with Uncle Howdy.
Something, yeah.
Have a screw job finish. Uncle Howdy come in. We're like, oh my gosh, is him and Bray working together? And then, maybe he does a finisher on both of them, and then put LA Knight over, and then he really takes out Bray, giving Bray more sympathy, and then they could continue their program maybe.
Yeah, they could do that. I mean, it's also, what are we going to see? In the aspect of, are we going to see The Fiend?
Yes.
Are we going to see cult leader Bray Wyatt? Are we going to see like the Mr. Rogers version of Bray Wyatt? Because on SmackDown, they had the return of the Firefly Funhouse. So it's like, there's so many ways. There's so many different components to this right now.
Yeah.
Between the riddles from Bray, what they should be doing with LA Knight, what they should be doing with Bray Wyatt, and then also what version, because we know what version of LA Knight we're going to see.
Oh, yeah.
My thing is, what version of Bray are we going to see? Are we going to see, like I said, are we going to see The Fiend?
Yeah.
Or is this going to be one of those things where maybe LA Knight beats him, and then the next match they have, he's The Fiend?
That's
are they going to do it like the Demon with Finn Balor, where it's like certain matches, like, or then again, maybe they don't want to go anywhere near The Fiend and just keep Bray. It's intriguing.
It is.
But at the same time, I'm at the point now where it's kind of like, can we just get to the match?
Yeah.
I'm
ready
fine
for
with the
it.
story you're telling. I get part of me gets what's going on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's kind of like, can we just get to the match now already? Yeah. Like, I know it's next Saturday as of recording, but I just want to get to the match and see, what is this character that I've been watching on TV for the last 4 months? What is he now? Because at first he was the benevolent, apologizing for the man that he was the last time we saw him. Mm-hmm. And with LA Knight, he's kind of evolved back into, maybe I need to, dip back into my darker side. But I'm kind of torn on what we're going to see out of that match. Like I said, I know what we're going to see out of LA Knight. And there's no question. It ain't like he's going to come out and he's going to be Max Dupree.
Yeah.
Like, I know he's going to be LA Knight. But with Bray and just the different iterations and, different versions of him, what are we going to see? And that's my main question with that match, and I look forward to seeing what happens in that match. I just hope it's not, a train wreck.
Right.
But then the next match that we know of is Roman Reigns versus KO. This match could go, I still think Roman's going to win this match because it's not time. But it's the matter of, how is KO going to lose?
Yeah.
Is it going to be Sammy involvement? Is Roman just going to beat him straight up? Because that's one of the things right now, that Roman's never beat him straight up.
Right.
There's always been, Paul helping or somebody helping to get Roman to the point where he wins. So for me, in this match, it's a foregone conclusion that Roman's going to win, because obviously with the rumors of The Rock or Cody, or if he does drop the title, it's not going to be at the Rumble, I don't think.
Yeah, personally. I agree with you.
So for me, it's just a matter of how's he going to win.
Yeah.
Now it could be, like I said, Sammy interference, because Roman's been manipulating Sammy in a way where he's got to choose a side, obviously, and he's chosen the bloodline. But you can tell watching SmackDown from week to week that Sammy's still torn.
Yeah.
Like, he can act like on camera, I'm with bloodline, but when they have those moments when it's him, Sami Zayn, and Owens together,
yeah,
you can still see that emotion between those two where they want to be friends so bad, but because of the storyline they're in or the situation that's been presented to them, they've got to be enemies, but we know they want to be friends. And I think it's building to Usos versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn at WrestleMania. But for me, the best part of all this, and I think this is the best story in wrestling right now, is the bloodline storyline, is as how we get there. How is Sammy going to leave the bloodline? Because we know it's coming. We're all going to be heartbroken when it happens, because it's something that we can see coming. When you watch SmackDown, you can see how Roman will sit in front of everybody, or when he's in the ring, he's standing in front of everybody and doesn't really make eye contact with people. He talks to people like they're not in the room, but they are in the room. And there's been plenty of times where you'll see Roman's eyes or just that smirk on his face where he's just got that mindset that I'm manipulating him.
Yeah.
And he's stupid and he don't realize it. And he wants to be a part of this so bad that I could tell him to do anything and he'll do it. And last night on SmackDown, they had the stuff where Roman was kind of heated with him and was tired of, constantly hearing him complain about Kevin Owens. And, it was one of those things where Roman felt like he didn't have to explain, himself to Sammy, because he's a tribal chief. Well, I don't have to run everything by you. You're an underling. You're lower on the totem pole. I don't have to run anything by you, which makes sense in character-wise for Roman being a narcissist and what he is, an egomaniac. It fits. And then with Sammy, it's one of those things where he's just trying to do whatever he can to blend in,
right,
and not ruffle feathers and just get along. But in the process of that, he gets lost in himself, and gets lost in the moment. And there was a time when he was called the ultimate strategist. So he's used to kind of doing his own thing and calling his own shots. And granted, he's a part of the bloodline, but I think he wants to feel included in the plans. And Roman's just kind of like, I don't need to include you in nothing. I'm the tribal chief. I'm allowing you on this island of relevancy. You should just be. You should be like a lot of guys that get in the business for the first couple of years. You should just be happy to be here.
Yeah.
And like I said, for me, it's one of those things where I'm interested in just seeing how Sammy leaves the bloodline, whether he leaves on his own and just realizes, KO's right, I am being used, or he just finally makes that one mistake, or maybe, on Monday on Raw on the 30th anniversary, maybe Sammy cost the Usos the Raw Tag Team titles.
Yeah.
Who knows? There's so many avenues this could go down, and all of them are going to be good.
Oh, absolutely. I hope Sammy stays with the Usos, with the tribal chief, Solo. Forgot to mention Solo earlier.
Oh, yeah.
That might be your Royal Rumble winner.
Possibly, but that's a whole
nother deal.
Yeah,
though.
that's a whole different can of worms, because then now you've got a bloodline member going against Roman, and I don't think Solo's just going to lay down.
No.
There's that.
But I hope Sammy stays with him now, and then maybe turn on the group, like you said, maybe against the Usos for them tag belts, or I would save it for WrestleMania, and then have Sammy botch something up where Roman finally drops the belt.
They could do that. There's also reports that at Elimination Chamber, because it's in Montreal, which is Sami Zayn's hometown.
Good point.
That they might find a way to work that in to where it might be Roman versus Sammy at Elimination Chamber. That could be it. That could be the moment where he finally, or maybe it could be on that following Raw or SmackDown after that premium live event. I'm so used to saying pay-per-view. Anyway, I could see them doing that. But
I wouldn't turn him at the Rumble, would you, Marcus?
Turn Sammy?
Sammy.
No, I mean, if they're going to do the thing at Elimination Chamber, it makes no sense because, I mean, it does. You could.
Yeah.
And have Sammy, that's his vendetta. Like, I've done all this for you. I've been loyal to you. I've forsaken my own best friend that I've spent over 20 years in this business with for you. And then for you to turn your back on me when I've pushed him to the side for you and the betterment of this group. I mean, their story, I mean, that's what I'm saying. No matter which avenue they go down, it could work. They could have it to where maybe at the Rumble or even on Monday.
Right.
To where that slowly starts that not a slow burn, because it's been a slow burn for a while, Sammy leaving the bloodline. But they could easily make it to where, Sammy costs them something.
Yeah.
To where that irks Roman in a way to where it's like, but then my thing is, how do you get to the match? How does Sammy become number one contender for that title?
He'd have to win that Elimination Chamber.
He'd have to do something.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's a pay-per-view in between Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania, because WrestleMania is in April and Elimination Chamber is in February. So, I mean, you have all of March. So, I mean, you could have Sami Zayn, because this is what I've been thinking for months. Have Sami Zayn win Elimination Chamber. Have him win the Elimination Chamber match. And if they have like a fast lane or whatever they have right before Mania, have Sammy go against him there.
Yeah. Well, do you think Sammy could win the Rumble? I didn't even think about that.
I've thought of Sammy, but
back to our Cody deal.
It's just hard to say Sammy when there's Cody right there. And if you're not going to do Rock, and if Brock's not that I want to see Brock win, but if you're not going to bring any massive name back that can take the place of Rock or Cody, and it's not a Bobby Lashley or it's not a Seth Rollins, and I don't want Seth because he's won a Rumble before, and that's been one of the things I've said on my podcast recently that I have is I always looked at the Royal Rumble kind of like the King of the Ring. It was a star-making event. I mean, granted, you had Hogan win it multiple times, and you had Shawn Michaels win it several times. You've had Austin win it three times. You've had Orton win it a couple times. You've had Batista win it. I get that sometimes you got to put that established star back in that spot at Mania. But for me, like the King of the Rings, like the Royal Rumbles, for me it was, because I mean that first Rumble that Shawn Michaels won. Yeah. Star-making event for him.
Absolutely.
Randy Orton, star-making event. Rey Mysterio. There was guys that weren't there yet, or they should have put the title on like a Rey Mysterio, but because he's smaller and how Vince was about things, they had to work that perfect storyline to make it happen. They weren't just going to put it on him. He had to win the Rumble. And that's what I think Rumble should be from here on out. Granted, I know there's going to be one where Seth or whoever will win another one or whatever, or an Edge, or I get that. And I'm not hating on that. But for me, if I'm the guy booking the show, it's like, how long can we bring back Brock Lesnar?
Right.
How long can we bring back Goldberg? How long can we bring back Edge? Or how long can we keep putting the flag, or putting the making Seth Rollins the face of the company? Yeah. Like, we need, not to say that Seth's old news, because he's not, but I think that's been my biggest problem with the WWE in the last 8, 9, 10 years, that they're not really making new stars. Right. Or, when they need to pop a rating, you'll bring back a Brock, or you'll bring back a Cena like they just did at the end of last year to pop a rating. But it's like you don't have established stars to hold fans each and every week. Like, you can have 3 million people watch a SmackDown when Cena's on there. Yeah. But then when we go back to the standard normal SmackDown, we're back to 1.9, 1.8, 1.7. Sometimes they hit 2, and that's fine. But, I mean, we're from the Attitude Era. Oh, yeah. And there was a time when there was 8, 9 million people watching wrestling. Right. So it's like the fan base has died, and I think that's because you don't have the Rocks. Right. You don't have the Stone Colds. You don't have the Undertakers or the Kurt Angles or the Shawn Michaels or any of those guys. Yeah, you've built up Drew. Yeah, you've built up Lashley. Yeah, you've built up a lot of guys, but they're not on Stone Cold or Rock or any of the guys I just mentioned's level. Yeah. Even bringing back Edge, that's great and all, But when he's coming out and telling you how old he is,
yeah,
I mean, that tells you right there that we have to bring back older guys to get more fans to watch our product because we don't build stars like we used to.
Right.
And I think a lot of that's on Vince, and I think maybe him losing touch with what makes a star nowadays. I think he was stuck in whatever year he was stuck in.
Yeah.
And now Triple H, I don't want to say he's building stars because he's not.
Right.
But the shows are better.
They are.
And I'm more invested in them. And I like to see what they do with Austin Theory in a couple years because I think he's going to be that guy. But at the same time, in the meantime, in between time, who do you got besides the Seth? Or the old, the good old standbys that, break glass in case of fire. This is who we pull out, a Brock or a Seth, or like you haven't established some of these other guys. Like there's a Chad Gable right there that you could push.
Mini Angle.
And he's legit. Like he's a legit shooter.
Kurt Angle 2.0 right
That's
there.
what I'm saying. It was like you're not building him. He's more of a joke. I like that they've made him baby faces or whatever now because it gives him a different dynamic, and Otis is getting to show more of his character again. But for me, it's like you've got guys you could build, but you're sticking with the old, the standby guys that no matter what, we'll go back to him.
Yeah.
As opposed to, how about we build this guy over here and let this guy over here do stuff still, but he's not the top of the card like he was.
Right.
Because my mindset is, and I've been in wrestling long enough, like you can't push everybody at the same time.
Right.
Sometimes you got to lose too. Sometimes you got to build another guy too. And if you're spending all your time building a Lashley or, a Seth Rollins, somebody's losing in place of that.
Yeah.
And that person's not getting pushed because you're pushing this guy, which Lashley's another guy getting up there in age.
Yeah.
He's in his mid-40s to where it's like, how long are we going to do this? Because once he's gone, who have you built to take his place?
Yeah.
When Brock Lesnar finally hangs it up, who have you built to take his place?
Ain't nobody.
When you decide to bring Goldberg back one last time, who have you built to take his place?
Yeah.
Because you can't always call up Cena.
No.
You can't always call up The Rock. Like, you've got to have guys that you've built while they've been gone or while, like, when Cena was still there. You build up Seth. You build up some guys, but it's not like it was back in the Attitude Era where I could rifle off 8 guys right now that were top stars. And it's like now I can 3, 4, 5 if I'm saying a callback like a Goldberg or something, and that's about it. And that's on both rosters.
Yeah.
That's not just Raw. That's SmackDown too. And that's an indictment. I mean, you've got Drew, you've got Sheamus, but Sheamus is older too. Drew's starting to get up there. He's almost 40. So, I mean, you're starting to get at the end, not at the end of the road with these guys, but at the same time, it's like, invest in other guys because these guys aren't going to be here forever.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, it's intriguing to me just to see where they go from here because if they don't build more stars, the ratings are going to keep falling.
Just keep falling and falling.
And all you're going to have left is the loyal ones like me and you and others that are diehard wrestling fans that I don't care. I don't want to say I don't care how bad it gets, but as long as you're presenting me a decent product, I'll keep watching. But those casual fans that watched it back in the day, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when it went from 8 to 7 to 5 million to 4 million to now we're at 2 at best on a good night. I mean, they've pushed away a lot of fans over the years. And when you have a guy like Vince McMahon come back, that's probably going to push away some more fans. So now that we're off of the Royal Rumble topic and I've brought up the giant elephant in the room, Vince McMahon, he is now back in WWE. Now, the last time we recorded our podcast, he was gone. And that podcast hasn't aired yet, so I'm sure that's going to date wonderfully that we talked about something that he's already back 6 months later. So what are your thoughts on Vince McMahon returning? Good, bad? Do you believe he's really trying to sell the company, or is he trying to take back over?
Oh, I don't know, Marcus. The first thing I was in uproar, I'm sure everybody was with the rumor of him selling to the Saudis. And I don't know, some dirt sheet writers got a hold of that, ran with it, and scared off part of that $2 million that's left to watch them. So they lost a bunch of people on that. I just don't know. I hope Triple H is still the main man creative.
For now.
Now. Like you brought up good points with him earlier. We're digging the product. The show's a lot better in our opinions. But I just hate to see it be sold. I'm hoping it's just what's Bruce's term? I don't deal in rumor and innuendo. I hope it still stays there with the McMahons, with Paul doing the creative. But if it was to sell, I hope it's not to the Saudis.
I mean, from my perspective, I think it'd be I want to choose what I say carefully, but I don't want to think that. I want to think that it wouldn't be the death nail for WWE. But I mean, who's going to want to do business?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, even if the Saudis just buy it and let Triple H and Vince and them run it, it's still got the stench of Saudi all over it.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I know I've seen reports that like there's that live golf that the Saudis are into where they've got that and they're paying guys a lot of money to golf, but they can't get it on TV to where they're paying these networks to put it on TV because nobody wants to be with it.
Right.
Nobody wants to be associated with it. So it's like, as a person that's consumed their product for a long time, I don't want to say I'd stop watching, but there's going to be people that are not as diehard as us that are casual watchers, that might be the death nail for them.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm afraid for that.
Yeah.
Because all we'll have left is AEW. And I'm not saying that like that's a bad thing. I'm not trying to hate on AEW.
Right.
But that was the problem for the longest. It was basically just WWE.
Yeah.
And then AEW came along. Now, we don't want it to where it's just AEW with no WWE, because I think right now there's a chance for wrestling to kind of have a surge again because there are two companies. And that was at least when we were growing up, that was when wrestling was at its height.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the golden era back in the 80s that was great, and I love it. And I was watching some Saturday Night's Main Event a couple days ago.
Yeah.
From like 89 when Macho was still champ. But at the same time, you can't have it to where you're in business with these people.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be the death nail. I hate to say that, but you think Fox wants to do business? I mean, Fox isn't there in their golf.
Yeah.
And if they are, it's because they're paying them. So it's like, does USA want to get involved with that? You know, like, who would, and you know it's going to be one of these things where Vince is going to want to sell to a company that's going to let him still be in charge.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, because I look at this like a bad relationship, and Vince is the one that doesn't want to let go, and he's got that mindset of, if I can't have her, no one can.
Yeah.
So he's unsat for the last 6 months plotting a way to get back in where you've got board members dropping out. He's putting his board members in to where they're voting him back in. I believe he wants to sell. I do believe that because, like I said, I think it's the girlfriend thing where if I can't have her, no one can. And I think he sat back and seen that WWE was fine without him. And when you've spent 40, 50 years of your life building up this company from what your dad and grandfather built, you know, I think that kind of left a sour taste in his mouth when he left, thinking, oh, they ain't going to be able to last without me. And then to see the stock price went up.
Ratings a little bit,
went up.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a good crown jewel, even though it was in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
They had a good Clash at the Castle. SummerSlam was good, and that was the first event Triple H was in control of somewhat. I mean, a lot of the matches were still booked before he was in control, but he was in control of that show. Good SummerSlam, good Clash at the Castle. I mean, and he's been making good headway with the fans to where for the longest, especially with Vince in charge, WWE was the heel.
Yeah.
AEW was the baby face.
Right.
And then with the whole thing with CM Punk, and it kind of almost converged at the same time with Vince leaving. Yeah. It flip-flopped. And AEW, I don't want to say is the heel, but there was a lot more goodwill towards the WWE. It's like, thank God Vince is gone, because that's what a lot of us wanted for the longest. Like, can we get this crazy old man out of the damn gorilla, out of the chair at Gorilla? let somebody with a fresher, younger mind, kind of like with politicians. Can we get some fresh minds in here? Do we need the 80-year-old old man as our president? Or do we need, the 90-year-old woman being the Speaker of the House or whatever? And I'm not trying to talk about politics, but I'm using that as a comparison. How long can you go before it's time to hand it down to somebody else? Yeah. And I don't think he wants to hand it down to anybody else. I mean, you've seen Stephanie leave. Yeah. Right after he came back. And I think a lot of people are overlooking that.
That's
because
a big thing.
She stepped away last year. And it was one of the things where she didn't quit. She was stepping away, a little bit of family time, needed time to get away. This time, she stepped away and she resigned all in the same breath. And I've seen some podcasts and interviews and whatnot where they're kind of talking about that. But for me, that's massive.
It's a bigger thing.
Because it's not like she's just, I'm going to take a 6-month hiatus and I'll come back. I've resigned from the company because what's going on here is not what I'm with. And especially her being a woman, them selling to the Saudis.
That's what immediately scared me until Vince replaced or took another female and put her at a high power. But I think that's been redone now. I think.
Well, I think it was
co-presidents or something.
Yeah. I mean, you have the two that he brought back that he fired a couple years ago, but
maybe that's who it was.
Those are yes men.
Okay.
Was it George Barrios and Michelle Wilson? I think their names were.
Okay.
And those are just yes men. It's just like a Bruce Pritchard. It's just like a John Laurinaitis. It's somebody. I mean, those are the ones that helped vote him back in.
Okay.
Because from what I heard, Triple H voted against Vince coming back. Yeah. Stephanie voted against it. Nick Khan voted against it. So, and then once Stephanie left and new board members come in, everybody flip-flops. And you got Triple H, come back. Nick Khan, come back. And then all of Vince's yes men he put in place are all singing the same song. So now he's back.
Gotcha.
I believe he is going to sell just for the rights fees. And he knows that, like, if we're going to do it, we need to do it now because if they sign another rights deal, that's 3-4 years. Right. They're going to be locked up by a network as opposed. And who knows? Maybe this is Vince thinking in hindsight and thinking maybe I'm not going to be here in 3 or 4 years. And like I said, I don't think he wants to leave the company to Triple H and Stephanie.
Yeah.
I really don't. And Shane's been out of the picture for years. He stole his stock years ago.
Right.
So it's not like he has a stake in the company at all anymore. And Triple H really doesn't either because he's not blood family.
Right.
So it's just Stephanie, Linda, and, and Vince.
Yeah.
So for me, I know he's going to sell. It's just a matter of when and to who. And I think with that leaked story of being sold to the Saudis, that might have put Vince on notice, as much money as I might make selling it to them, and I might make more money selling it to them than any other entity that might buy it at Disney or an Apple TV or Netflix or Amazon or whoever ends up buying it. He might make less money from them, but I think he realizes in the grand scheme of things, because Saudi can't even get the Live Golf thing on TV without paying, a television provider. So it's like, how am I going to get my product out there if I have nobody that wants to put me on TV because of who I've sold this business to? So
hopefully that's enough.
Yeah, hopefully that's enough. And between Triple H and Nick Khan and some of the other people there, hopefully they can steer him out of wanting to sell to them, because I know at the end of the day, Vince is about money.
Yeah.
And making as much as he can, which is he's a businessman, makes sense. But sometimes if you sell to a company, or in this case, a country that is not looked upon very highly, right? And just the way they do people and women, and the murder of Malcolm Khashoggi, and just some of the things that don't sit well. And you've got guys like Sami Zayn that are Syrian in bloodline, like I think his mother is Syrian.
Yeah. So
it's like, and you've got guys like MVP,
right,
who were Muslim, and now he's denounced him being a Muslim, and now he's an atheist, which I don't think a lot of people realize. Like in Saudi Arabia, that's a crime punishable by death.
Yeah.
Like if he would, I think that's one of the reasons why they had Braun Strowman power slam the life out of him, leading into the Braun Strowman versus Omos match.
That's right.
At Crown Jewel, because if he went over there, they may not let him go back.
And then how many females would hang out on the talent roster?
On that, I think that as long as they stay out of that and it stays in America and they do American or, Canada or Mexico or whatever else other than Saudi Arabia, I think the women will be fine.
Okay.
But if I'm a woman, do you really want to work for a company that thinks you're less than?
Right.
That you're not, equal to a man?
I think half of them would walk off, and if not, your top ones would.
Yeah, I just think back to an era that I wasn't living in, but you go back to the 60s and 70s when women were burning their bras trying to be liberated.
Yeah.
I don't think they fought that hard to be liberated, to where then in 2023 you've got a company full of women that have to work for a country that doesn't think that you're equal to me, or you're not allowed to drive, or you're not allowed to show your body, or anything of that nature, to where shut up, your opinion means nothing.
Yeah.
If I'm a woman, I'd probably walk.
Yep.
If I'm Sami Zayn, I'd probably walk.
Yeah.
If I'm MVP, I'd probably walk. But would that make a dent in the company in the grand scheme of things? Of course not.
Right.
But at the same time, as a company, do you want it to where you have this kind of
negative publicity?
Yeah, just that angst with your workers.
Yeah.
That they don't want to work for you no more because of who you sold, and now they're stuck.
Yeah.
Because you got some guys that got 2 or 3 years left on their deal, to where it's like, okay, if I quit, they can get me for breach of contract. They can freeze my contract to where now I've got to sit in limbo for 2 or 3 years. And if I'm a Seth Rollins that's in my mid-30s and I ain't going to be able to wrestle till I'm almost 40.
Right.
Do you want to? There's so many different things in this to where it's like you could walk.
Yeah.
You could really walk. But I've seen how they've done guys that got injured.
Yeah. And
they want to freeze their contract because you were gone for 4 months and now we're going to add 4 months to the backside of your contract. So, if you've got years still left on your contract,
oh, man, it's
and if you're like a Lashley or one of these guys that's older and in your 40s already,
Ray.
Do you want to sit for another 3-4 years to wait until your contract expires and you're damn near 50?
Yeah.
Because then you might as well just retire.
Right.
So, it's a catch-22. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't think they're going to sell to the Saudis because I think just the groundswell.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think they were going to, just because I'm not the most knowledgeable on stocks, but with them being a private stock, or a public stock on the stock exchange, they can't just sell that quickly. To where I don't know if it was the dirt sheets getting the wrong story, because this is a conversation I had with my dad, because my dad watches wrestling and we talk about it a lot. I almost think it was them putting out feelers to see the reaction, because if people wouldn't have blown up about it, maybe this would be a tangible option.
Yeah.
But when you have Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, I couldn't scroll on nothing without seeing something about the sale. And I think, like I said, it was just them putting feelers out to see what's people's reactions going to be if we do this. Are people going to jump off the end of the earth about this? Or are they going to be cool about it and just let it happen? And with the reaction they got, I think it's pretty obvious if you sell to them, you're going to lose some fans and possibly some wrestlers.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point, Marcus.
That's just my perspective as a guy that's done this. Would I stay there? At the end of the day, you got a family.
Yeah.
And you've got a lifestyle you've created, and, a house note and cars and, whatever kind of education you wanted to give to your children and give them something that maybe you didn't have as a child, to where, like I said, it's a hard one. Mm-hmm. Because you could easily leave and live on your morals, but then you can also stay and kind of sacrifice your morals for the better good of your family, but then you're going to have people kind of looking at you sideways.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. It's a
damned
weird
if
one.
you do, damned if you don't.
What would you do if you were a wrestler in WWE? And I don't know what your feelings are on Saudi Arabia. I'm assuming probably it's the same as mine. But what would you do if you were one of these guys and you were kind of stuck in this situation where it's stay or go, fight or flight?
I would have been like I was up until this news or this possible rumor, been a Vince loyalist and stayed with the company till I could retire. But this, I'd be saying, well, I can't wait for my contract to come up. I think I'm going to call Tony Khan, see what's up.
So what, you would stay under contract and just wrestle the rest of your contract and then leave? Or would you quit and sit out?
I wouldn't quit until the paperwork was done. The rumor mill wouldn't get me to quit.
Right.
But if if a deal does go down with the Saudis, then I'd have to lose in court. But I say I'm out of here. You know, I can't take this. And then eventually work for Tony if he'd have me.
Right, and you can't blame anybody.
Right.
I mean, it ain't like, oh, how dare you, Becky Lynch, leave WWE because you want to be treated like a full person.
Yeah.
I can't fault you for that. But then again, I can't fault somebody for staying.
Right.
Because you've got a house payment.
Yeah.
You've got a car payment. You've got children or whatever that you're trying to provide for. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of right either way.
Yeah.
You're right for staying because at the end of the day, you need money to survive.
Yeah.
But then again, you've got that devil on one shoulder and the good conscience on the other shoulder. And
Exactly.
It's like, you need to leave. Well, no, you need to stay because you're making money. No, you need to leave because the morals are, this ain't us.
Yeah.
So it's a bad
deal.
Yeah, it's a bad situation for anybody in that company right now. Like, I know that night when it was announced, you had NXT people that were like, oh my God, what's going on?
Yeah.
And it's, like I said, I think they put out feelers just to see the climate and the temperature of the room. Like, if we do this, how are people going to react? That's what I think. I could be totally wrong.
Smart.
And it just could be a dirt sheet that picked up on something that was totally false. Or, like I said, WWE could, because I think a lot of the people that talk to dirt sheets sometimes feed them bad information to make them look bad. So, see, Dave Meltzer don't know nothing. Or see, Brian Alvarez or some of these dirt sheet guys they don't know nothing. Or, Sean Ross Sapp or some of these other guys that are reporters on wrestling. I think sometimes they intentionally get fed bad information so they can put it out there. And then WWE can come out with a statement that's totally false. I don't know where they got that from. When more than likely the person that put out the story, a Sean Ross Sapp or a Dave Meltzer, is more than likely got this straight from somebody from WWE.
Yeah.
So it's like they kind of shit on them, even though you're the ones that fed them the information to begin with.
Yeah.
So it's wrestling. I love wrestling and I hate it all at the same time. And this is this type of stuff.
Perfect example.
Yeah, this perfect example of why I hate some aspects of wrestling, the politics and the backstage stuff that if you're not, because I mean, the casual fan may not even have heard a whiff of this.
Right.
They may not even know that the Saudis are, were interested or Vince has been talking or whatever the case may be with them. So the casual fan may not know, but guys like me and guys like you who kind of listen and kind of know or listen to certain podcasts or whatever to where we at least know. Because, I mean, that's the way I always have been.
Yeah.
I always wanted to know how this stuff worked. I always want to know, as a kid, and we talked about this before we started recording, just how do they do this? Mm-hmm. And, when you're an 8-year-old kid, you think to yourself, you suspend your disbelief. Maybe this is real. But like we talked about earlier, it's one of those things where it's like finding out that Santa Claus is fake.
Yeah.
And it's like, all this time I thought it was real, but it's really fake. And I mean, it's a hard thing to navigate, I think, right now in the wrestling business because you've got AEW and you've got WWE and you've got, Impact and, MLW and New Japan and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, there's only two real ones. So there's only two that really have true national television distribution. I mean, I know Impact's on Access or whatever, which I get that channel, but it's not a TBS, it's not a TNT, it's not a USA, it's not an NBC, it's not one of these bigger, well-known, entities that have been around a whole lot longer. So with the sale, I'd hate to see them sell to the Saudis because, like I said, I think that it would possibly be the end of WWE as we know it.
Yeah.
And the distribution and the streaming and like the network and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I feel bad for the wrestlers that are there that have to make, if it does happen, that I have to make that decision.
Oh, yeah.
On whether to stay or go, because either way you're going to get flack from somebody.
Right.
You just quit the company. You were making all this money. You just walked away. you'll get that. And then you're going to get, well, you stayed and what, obviously you'll have no, I mean, no matter what you do,
yeah,
you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess that's basically all we got this week. So
yeah.
I'd like to wrap this up and tell everybody to please subscribe to this channel, like, share the video. We do these videos as much as we can. I'd like to welcome you guys, or thank you guys for being a part of this Mark and the Fan Wrestling Podcast.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Marcus, can you give them a plug for your other show?
I also have a podcast called The Magnum Report. I just review Raws and SmackDowns weekly, sometimes premium live events. I know I'll probably be doing the Royal Rumble here when it comes up soon. You can follow me on YouTube at Militant Mark Magnum. Not too hard to find. I got plenty of old wrestling matches on there too, so my channel's not boring. Post gaming stuff too.
It's good stuff, folks.
Like I said, please subscribe to this channel, to this podcast. I'd like to thank everybody for watching, and we'll see you the next time we do this.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Thanks, Marcus.
This has been the Mark and the Fan podcast with your hosts, Mark Magnum and the Cisco Kid. Find us on YouTube and Facebook. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share with your friends.
Now, should I hit this record thing?